Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. And to say I'm having a bit of a bad run at this point in time. Last night was very interesting. I'm 1 in 3. The only solace I can say is that the two predictions that I got wrong are also predictions I believe that 90% of the public and the people within the boxing world also kind of got wrong. I don't think anyone in their right mind predicted that Rolly Romero would beat Ryan Garcia, but we'll talk about that on Sunday or Monday whenever that weekend wrap comes out. And the Teofimo Lopez one, well, that was kind of split 50-50, but yeah, look, we go again tonight and I'm expecting to be a lot more on the money on this one. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. Now, I'm not 100% sure of how the matches are playing out in terms of the order, so I'm just going to go within the order that I feel is correct. Before I even start with the first one, look, Richard Riakporhe is back on this card after the I guess the pullout from Lawrence Bakoli that previously occurred. Not really going to speak about that. I expect Richard to do the business. Looked amazing on the scales, 230 pounds, 231 pounds, something like that. Looks like a really good weight for him, so we'll see how that goes. Since he is a heavyweight, we'll start with the heavyweights. You got Martin Bakoli versus FA Jagba. Now, Martin Bakoli came in at 299 pounds. FA Jagba came in at 240, so there's 59 pounds difference between the two of them. Martin Bakoli, I don't know what the plan is in terms of the weight. When he was around, look, when he was sort of the 240s, 250s, even the early 260s, he looked like he had that good mix of, you know, speed, decent footwork. He had the stamina, but he's always seemed to be a person that once the fight goes past like 5 or 6 rounds, not so much he gets tired, but looks like he almost loses interest in the fight, especially if he's not having everything his own way. I think that was even one of the reasons why Tony Yoka managed to survive the 10 rounds of him after sort of really getting beat up in sort of the first 5 or 6. Martin almost feels like, why am I still here? Like, why are you still in front of me? This is long, kind of thing. That's how it kind of comes across to me, in my opinion. And I don't know if putting on this extra weight is supposed to be to maybe absorb punches better, but you know, you lose speed. If you're hoping that you're just going to be able to front load and bulldoze fights, I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be able to navigate around you. I think it's a bit of a disgrace. Bear in mind, look, came in 310 pounds against Joseph Parker, but that was almost coming off the couch. You're saying, oh, I didn't have a camp, so you would expect him to at least be around maybe 285, 288 for this one. 299, that's not comforting, and I've got serious questions about that moving forward. FA Jagba, look, he's the taller guy, he's got the longer arms, he's definitely got the longer reach. So if his punch is sturdy enough to the point where he can keep Martin Bakoli on the end of the jab and the end of the right hand, and not let Bakoli get inside that mid-range, where obviously then his shots become a lot more prevalent because he's a lot quicker and better with the combinations. Like, FA Jagba can actually do some real big damage from the outside, maybe forcing Bakoli to have to try to get his way onto the inside, and once he finally does, eat some very heavy leather on the way in. The one thing is though, neither guy is that great with the footwork or speed, but Jagba is definitely the quicker of the two, and I feel like he's got this better boxing fundamentals, whereas like Bakoli is a lot more, he feels like a lot more fluid with his shots at the bigger size, but he has to be able to plant his feet. So if a Jagba can box, move and turn and make Martin Bakoli have to turn with him, he won't throw his shots as readily because he likes to be set first. And I think that's a Jagba's best bet, especially in the first couple of rounds. And then when it starts to get a little bit later on, that's when you start to heavily invest in the power shots more than the jab. You've got to have to employ a lot of work to the body. You're gonna have to stab the body from early just to try to take extra air out of the tire, so to speak. But I'm not sure where I'm leaning to. I think just due to, and especially there's a pride of Africa thing going on there as well, so we've got to kind of take that into account. But I think that just based on the overall size and maybe the total quality of opposition they've been in there with, I'm leaning towards Martin Bakoli. Only just. If he came in maybe 10-15 pounds lighter, then I would feel like he'd have a lot more. But at 299, that's just too big. And the Jagba's he's a big strong guy as well, and he hits just as hard, if not harder, than you do. So that's a concern. Plus, we don't know if there's still any effects from the the equilibrium shot that he got from Joseph Parker. Also, now people kind of know where the off switch is for Bakoli and how you get into that place. Plus, also, if you you watch the Michael Hunter fight from years ago, you can kind of see how you disrupt and how you upset Martin Bakoli. But I am going to go with Bakoli to win. I think it will be a late accumulation stoppage. When I say late, I'm thinking maybe round 8, somewhere around there. I think the first half of the fight is going to be extremely competitive. Maybe even a Jagba is doing a lot, but I think he's going to be moving a lot, and there's lateral movement, the backwards movement is going to be taking a little bit of sting off of the punches, and then I think ultimately he may get tired and then decide to just stand, basically go toe to toe, hell for leather with the bigger, bruisier brawler of a guy, and I think that's where he may start to come a cropper. So yeah, I'm going to go with Bakoli to win via sort of a second third stoppage. So like I said, about round 8, round 9, somewhere between there. Okay, next we're gonna go with Badu Jack the Ripper versus Noel Gavore Mikhailian, who is now the WBC Cruiserweight Champion in recess, and Badu Jack is been reinstated to full WBC Champion. Whoever wins this fight then has to face Ryan Rosicki for the, because he is the interim WBC champion at this point, so they have to clear that up, and then maybe the unifications can take place. But hopefully they can do a unification, and then the winner of that unification can fight Rosicki, and then whoever after that can maybe try and do an undisputed thing. I guess we'll have to wait and see. However, Gavore is the slightly taller guy, less experienced as a pro overall, and I would say he's got a pretty good schooling, and he's obviously he's a sort of a natural cruiserweight compared to sort of Badu Jack, who's moved up through the weight divisions. But I feel as if Badu Jack in his career, in his overall wheelhouse, has just been in there with much better and more varied opposition. Now don't get me wrong, Noel Gavore, his only 2 losses, I think he had a loss early on in his career, and then the second loss I believe was to Maris Bradus, and it was by unanimous decision. So he's tough, he definitely could take a shot, he's never been knocked out or anything like that. But then obviously when you see Badu Jack, I mean, look, he's been in there with quick guys. He's been in there with the likes of, James DeGale. He's obviously was in there with Makabu, the first person to beat Makabu before Gavore beat Makabu. Richard Rivera as well. What's his name? Marcus Brown. Like he's been in there with like a lot of different styles, like orthodox, southpaw, fast ambush guys, slow and steady, methodical. And I feel like he's just had a lot more and seen a lot more. Plus, obviously being a former member of like the Money team, he would have also had very good access to top quality sparring and trainers from back in the day. The one bad thing about Badu Jack though, he's been out of the ring for 2.5 years at this point by the time the fight comes around, and he's 41. Yes, he takes good care of himself, but that ring rust is going to be a problem. Now maybe for him the one good thing is he always takes long to warm into fights. You always see him look like he's struggling between rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly even 5, but then from like midway through the 5th round onwards he just gets into his groove, and he takes over the fights. Now obviously sometimes it has not worked for him, hence why he's lost a couple of those fights, also hence why he's had a couple draws, because he just hasn't got kicked into gear early enough. But I do think that just based on obviously his relationship overall, with Saudis, he's based in Dubai, I believe, so he kind of is closer to that part of the world. He's of the same the same faiths as a lot of them, so he kind of, I feel like he's more ingratiated to that side of the people. Plus he's obviously the name. Don King is involved with Gavore at some point, and at this point I don't think anyone really necessarily wants him to have control of any parts of boxing and its silverware, so to speak. But yeah, I think that ultimately Gavore's gonna get into a good rhythm from early, but I do think that the experience and I think the better fitness, I do think that Badu Jack has better fitness. I think all of that will sort of work its way into the fight from sort of the 3rd and 4th round onwards, and I do think from there he will start to take it over. I'm predicting it will be like a majority decision type victory, or like a split decision. I mean, it could be unanimous, but I don't know. I just feel like he may lose a bit too much ground early on for him to get the actual unanimous. But with that, I'm going to go with Badu Jack to win it. It's going to be a close and a closely run contest, but I just think the extra experience and quality will be what gets him through ever so slightly. Next, I believe this is the chief support / co-main, which is Haime Mongia versus Bruno Saras. Now everyone knows this is a rematch no one ever thought they needed, but it's happened because Haime Mongia got himself badly knocked out by Bruno Saras in their last fight. Saras obviously at the time was very famous. He was like 24-0-2 with 4 KOs. And yeah, like the shot that he landed, it was just Haime Mongia was just lacking. Basically he was pretty much had won every round up until that point, maybe lost one other than Mexico, but yeah, took his eye off the ball, dropped his guard, got hit sweet on the button, and down he went. I expect this fight to be a correction of that one. Now it could be a case that maybe Haime Mongia has just been in too many of those kind of fights where he's happy to take a shot to dish out to, and now the punch resistance is gone. But I think it was more a case of he just didn't take the opponent seriously before, looked at the record, looked at the KOs, thought I can take all of that. He was pretty much dominating the fight and felt okay, there's no danger here, and then switched off. In this particular instance, I think he won't switch off. I think he now knows, well, this guy can hurt me if I don't do the right things, but if I do enough of what I was doing last time, that's enough for me to win this. Based on the previous fight, I think Saras is tough. I think he was campaigning at 160 a few fights back, so he's quite soft around the midsection in terms of 168, but that could all play a positive factor in terms of his stamina reserves, having more energy to draw from. But I do think the element of surprise is gone now, and again, outside of Haime Mongia being mad chinny, I think he would have corrected every mistake that he had, but he has to win this fight, and truthfully I think he will. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Saras though, because if he couldn't do it in the last fight, I don't think he's going to be able to do it in this one. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win a unanimous points decision. I think it's going to be quite comprehensive, with Saras maybe being competitive in spots. there may possibly be a situation where he has a you know, some really against the grain success again. But yeah, I think Jaime Mongia wins. I think he wins quite comfortably on a unanimous decision. And last but by no means least, we've got the undisputed super middleweight clash between Saul Canelo Alvarez and William Scull. William is obviously the IBF super middleweight champion after Canelo decided to vacate the belt in order to fight Edgar Berlanga. So William won the vacant title and against Vladimir Shishkin. Since then, hasn't done anything to be fair, but he's been waiting for this opportunity. I guess at that point in time, it wasn't really worth Canelo's time to face him. He was mandatory, but no one knew him. At least now you face him, you get a belt out of it, you get to be two-time undisputed. There is a marked difference in the size of the two, but Scull is, I think he's 23-0 with 9 KOs on the record. So, you know, even though Canelo is used to being hit by bigger guys, he will probably look at that and say, 9 KOs, I'm not really worried. I'm not concerned. And I'm pretty sure he must have gone back and decided to watch a few of his previous fights just to see the kind of things that he does. Now, he is obviously a Cuban based in Germany at the moment, but that does mean there is a certain level of schooling that he will have. So those first couple of rounds, I can see being a bit tricky. I think he's going to move quite a bit. He's going to change direction. He's going to try and stay on the outside as much as possible. Maybe try to do the ball and the matador with Canelo. So I think Canelo is probably going to not let his hands go too much in the first couple rounds. He's just going to be trying to work on his angles, trying to see what Scull does when he decides to, you know, when Canelo moves left, how does Scull react? When he steps forward, when he inches forward, what's the adjustment going to be? And I feel like he's going to pretty much do that for the first round or two. Occasionally, maybe throw in like a big hook to the arm or something, just so he can kind of keep his arms both engaged but fatiguing at the same time. And then I think from maybe sort of round 2, 3, 3, 4, sort of in that area, I do think that Canelo will be able to find his rhythm. Obviously Scull will have to engage in order to be able to win at any point. So at some point he's either going to have to stand his ground or he's going to have to try and throw. And I think at the time when he does try to throw that single shot, Canelo is probably going to try to catch and counter it. I think he's going to rip to the body quite a bit. I think he's going to get some success with the body early on, and I do think that will slow down the legs enough to where Scull decides to try to come in to clinch and hold to get some rest and to be able to have some reprieves from the action. But I do think in one of those moments you will probably see Canelo break the clinch, break the guard, land either a left hook or an overhand right over the top of the loose lead hand, and I can see William Scull hitting the canvas, maybe getting up, maybe being unsteady on the legs and getting waved off, or maybe he gets up and he's allowed to kind of go on, and then finally the finish sort of comes a little bit later than that. I know the consensus is always to say Canelo 1 points, but I just have a feeling that Scull, I've seen him take shots. He doesn't take shots the greatest. Like, I'm not saying he's chinny, but you can tell when someone catches him with a jab or a shot in his fights, his construct looks like it falls apart for a couple of seconds, and he normally backs out and then tries to get himself back together and then comes back in. And I think that may be a situation that Canelo will take advantage of. But ultimately, I'm saying all of this like I'm not about to say Canelo Alvarez wins this fight via stoppage, and I'm predicting it to be between rounds 5 to 8. So yeah, that's my prediction for this one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. We will be doing the watch along tonight. Probably I'll start at about 1 o'clock, but I'll definitely do nap beforehand because last night was torturous. Although I do expect these fights to be a lot more entertaining than last night's fights were. With that being said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. But for right now, that's the second part, Basis Picks. Locked.